President Cyril Ramaphosa is currently meeting his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden in Washington, D.C. The two leaders are expected to discuss the war in Ukraine, as well as a number of other issues, including trade. This is President Ramaphosa's first visit to the White House and the first time that a South African head of state has been there since 2014. President Ramaphosa and Biden discussed the agenda for what their formal meeting will entail.
Please have a seat.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. President, it's great to have you here. As we were talking before you came in about how magnificent I think your country is. I spent some time in my campaign, which lasted for years, against apartheid, visiting the country, and it's magnificent. And, it's an honor to welcome you to the White House. I'm looking forward to this for a while. The United States and South Africa and your government have the same value set. And, I've long been inspired by the long struggle of freedom and justice. And one of the great moments of my career was when the first time Nelson Mandela came to the United States. And I was a senator at the time. We met in the Senate Foreign Relations Executive Committee room. And he came in, and we all stood there and said hello to him and the like. And afterwards, he asked me to find my office, and he tried to say thank you, because he heard I hadn't stopped trying to get to visit him and to see him in prison. And I had said once, I said I got arrested. I wasn't arrested, I got stopped. He was prevented from moving, but he was extremely gracious. And we've ended up with two great democracies, and a lot to do, and you've become, you personally and your country, are such a critical part of what happens in the economy of 100 million people, billion people almost. We really need to make sure we're fully understand one another. And our trade relations with South Africa, we have 600 American companies doing business in South Africa. And you're a leader on climate and health and COVID-19. I'd like to talk to you about that, because we want to see you be able to produce the COVID insulin on the continent, in your country, etc. And you were one of the international leaders that agreed with my effort to try to do away with the patent listing on drugs. So you can still get a lot done, I think. And look, our partnership is essential in addressing many of the world's pressing challenges, from the food security crisis to and South Africa is a vital voice on the global stage and on the international order. We have a lot to talk about. There's a lot happening around the world, not only on the continent of Africa, but around the world, and you're engaging as well. So welcome, looking forward to our conversation, and thanks for taking the time to be here.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you for welcoming me and my delegation to the White House. It's always a joy to meet you and to exchange views and thoughts with you. We are really delighted that we've come on a working visit to meet you. There are a whole host of issues we'd like to discuss. And of course, our relations really are historic. They date from far back. The United States is an important partner to South Africa from a trade and investment point of view. As you correctly say, we've got 600 or so companies that invest and operate in South Africa. A number of them are already making huge investments, and we'll be meeting some of them. And we really welcome the opportunity to be here so that we can extend those relations and we can get more companies to invest in South Africa to create jobs. We're also here to say thank you for the support that the United States gave to South Africa and to the African continent with regards to fighting COVID-19, the vaccines that you made available, as well as the support that you gave us when we were advocating for a TRIPS waiver and World Trade Organization, and we are grateful for that. But we also want to cover a number of areas related to COVID-19 and the vaccines, particularly to finish the negotiations with regard to therapeutics and diagnostics, which matter is due for finalization before the end of the year. And of course, we want to discuss what I would call global stability and security, particularly in relation to our region, where we've had insurgents targeting one of our neighboring countries, Mozambique,
Yes.
so that we can discuss that as well, because for us, that's very important. And indeed, this morning we had wonderful discussions with the Vice President, and we covered a whole range of issues, including gender empowerment, because for us, the empowerment of women is also very important. And of course, climate change is a matter that we should discuss in a little while, particularly in relation to a just transition, as many of our people are a bit fearful of what a just transition could mean. So thank you very much. There's a lot of issues that we have to cover, and we really welcome this opportunity.
Thank you for making the effort.
Well, earlier President Ramaphosa met US Vice President Kamala Harris at her residence in Washington, D.C. President Ramaphosa expressed his gratitude for the US's continued support of South Africa.
Mr. President, welcome to the Naval Observatory. It is an honor to welcome you, and I know that you have a full day of very important discussions with the President, and we will have an important discussion about many issues, but I do want to thank you for the leadership that you have provided for the continent of Africa and, of course, in South Africa. The relationship between the United States and South Africa is a very important one for many reasons, including the leadership that together we have provided on issues such as global health, on the issue of security, and of course the challenges that we each face with the climate crisis and the work that we will do together to address that crisis. So I welcome you today. I thank you for your leadership, and I cannot emphasize enough how important the relationship between our countries is to the people of the United States, both in terms of our security and our prosperity. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for welcoming me, Madam Vice President. I'm really pleased to be starting my visit to the United States with you. And the visit really is about strengthening the relationship between South Africa and the United States, but also to express our gratitude to the United States in relation to the support the U.S. has given during the COVID challenges. We received considerable support as a continent and as South Africa. And in South Africa, we continue to get support on health matters from the United States, for which we are grateful. And I'm really here also to discuss a number of issues with you: the empowerment of women, human rights for women on our continent, and of course health matters, how we can strengthen health infrastructure on our continent, and of course security matters as well, where we believe the United States can play a key role as the continent faces a number of challenges at a security level. So it's a real wonderful opportunity for me to be here with you and to visit you. Thank you so much.
Well, I look forward to our day together, so thank you very much.
Thank you so
and thank
much.
you to the President.
That's US Vice President Kamala Harris speaking to our President, Cyril Ramaphosa, as one of the many stops that he made today. Now, President Ramaphosa also hosted the US Congressional Caucus and anti-apartheid veterans at the SA Embassy in Washington, and he called on the Americans to reject the Countering Malign Russian Activities in Africa bill aimed at punishing countries that continue to have trade relations with Russia after the Kremlin invaded Ukraine. The president also called on the congressional members to help change the narrative on Africa that the continent has nothing to offer the rest of the world.
We call on members of Congress to help us to change the narrative about Africa, which seeks to portray the continent as riven by conflict and which gives a false impression that Africa has nothing to offer to the rest of the world. On the contrary, we know that Africa has huge potential for growth and development. And those who are keen observers of global developments know that the next growth center of economic growth is going to be Africa. The African Continental Free Trade Area will place the economies of our continent on a completely new trajectory of development, of production, of industrialization and manufacturing. The continent's united response to COVID-19 has demonstrated that Africa has the will and the means to work together to overcome the greatest challenges. We are one continent which, confronted with a devastating pandemic, was able to be creative, to be innovative enough to work together as one continent encompassing all the 54 countries on our continent.